desire to be a championship team. Championship teams, take every advantage, and we didn't do that tonight.
That right there, Michigan acting basketball coach Phil Martelli after yesterday's loss to Illinois. Good afternoon, everybody. We'll talk a little Michigan basketball coming up and what they have remaining. 3 games left in the regular season. We'll revisit that game from yesterday, give our thoughts on what's going on there. But we'll start things off, and we'll kick it off here on the Maize and Blue review with a former Michigan captain and a current assistant linebackers coach for the AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals, who joins us here on Afternoon Live, and that is Jordan Kovacs. Jordan, how are you? Thanks for joining us.
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Well, you know what? You're a great guest anytime, but, considering that, your team went out there and ran through the AFC like a hot knife through butter, it was a pretty amazing thing to just sit back on my couch and watch. I would have to I'm assuming that it was great being part of it. What was it like?
It was a blast. It was a lot of fun. We kind of had, as we talked earlier, a team that just kind of got hot at the right time. And we kind of felt all year we've got kind of a special group of guys. We had the right culture, and we had some good leadership on the team. And, we got hot in the playoffs, and we were a fun team to root for. We're just kind of a gritty, scrappy team that flew under the radar for the most part, but probably better than most teams or most fans expected. And we were the underdogs, and I think we took on that narrative, and we really enjoyed it. It was a fun ride, man.
Yeah, certainly I'm going to ask you about Michigan, but, with Cincy here, late in the year, you host Kansas City, and you guys look like you're getting beat, and Jamar Chase, goes for 1,000 yards or whatever it was. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But that was where, everybody took notice. But you know how media people are, and really it was when you get to the AFC Championship game, this time you got to go to Arrowhead. And right before the half, you tackle Tyreek Hill down at the goal line. You go in the half. You guys look like you're going to get blown out. But Nance and Romo, who were calling the game, they point out, like, hey, this was the exact same score, back in Cincinnati.
Yeah. It was the 11-point difference at that time, yeah.
Yeah, was that something you guys talked about? Like, did you think that was a turning point? It felt
I certainly felt it was a turning point. I think that was just a huge play in the game because we weren't playing well at all defensively that first half. And it's easier to say than to do to try and stop Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill. I mean, they've just got so many weapons on that offense, but they were just having their way with us that whole first half. And then we finally got that stop right before the half, and it was really more mismanagement on their part, but a stop nonetheless. And it was a huge turning point really for us in that game. We went into the half coming off a stop. I believe we got the ball. I think they might have got the ball to start the second half. But either way, we came out with another stop, got the ball rolling on offense. It really kind of never looked back. But that was certainly, looking back, it was an 11-point game on that stop. They had the chance to make it a 3-possession game. And it was a big stop for us and kind of gave us the momentum that we needed.
Well, as a pro and as a coach, I mean, you guys always have to do it the next week and, the next season and all that. But I would think that, all of the other teams are going to be looking at that game in the second half as a blueprint of, what to do against the Chiefs. But, how satisfying now that, you're able to at least take a step back and look to next year, but look in the rearview mirror for a second and say, yeah, we really came up with something defensively in particular out of the ball that you're at, to help you guys get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, no, I mean, it starts with we just have such good players, especially on the defensive side of the ball. We're just well-rounded, and it's funny because we think we've got some really damn good players, but no real superstars that get the attention that we think they deserve. But they just made some big plays down the stretch, made some big plays on the ball. They forced a big turnover in overtime. BJ Hill deflected a ball and picked it off earlier in the game. I mean, there were some just big plays that we made defensively. Got the ball back to our offense, and they just they made it happen on the offensive side too. So those guys really stepped up in a big game. I mean, we were down, I think it was 21-3 at one point in Arrowhead Stadium. That's not an easy team to beat on the road. So they showed a lot of resilience, a lot of grit, and again, they're a fun team to coach, man.
Well, I can say it now. I thought it was over, the first half.
Yeah.
To tell you the truth. You guys do have some superstars over on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
What about the Super Bowl? Where are you at this year? Where were you at, during the game? So
Yeah, so I was down on the sideline. Working with the linebackers, so I was right there, saw everything up close, man. It's the way, as a former player, you don't want to be up in the booth. You want to be down on the sideline. You want to feel like you're a part of the action. So that's been fun.
yeah, so the Super Bowl, I mean, what were your expectations going in? Just like, not really about the score or anything, just about, the experience
Yeah.
with everything that's going on. You realize like 80 million people are watching you. What's going through your mind there when you're down?
Yeah. Well, I think just the whole week, I mean, it's just unbelievable, the exposure, the magnitude, or the exposure that's put on that game. But as you're in it, you kind of don't feel like, and that's kind of the goal as a coach, is to not let the stage or the situation ever seem too big for the players, right? So we tried to keep the same routine. We stayed in Cincinnati that first week, practiced here, kept the same routine, kept the same install pattern. And then we got out to Los Angeles, and, again, we kind of tried to replicate that routine, which is easier said than done. But for the most part, we had no issues, and it was a pretty smooth transition. So obviously there's a lot more media out there. But as a coach on the sideline, as a player, even in the game, I always felt like, the game never feels too big when you're in it. And when you take a step back and you watch a replay or whatever, you say, holy shit, this is the Super Bowl. But while you're in it, you never really think that.
Yeah. What about this season? We just talked about the Bengals' miraculous run, and it was awesome. I don't need to tell you, but I'll just say, Michigan goes and they beat Ohio State. They, for the first time since you were a player, then, they win the Big Ten championship game. They get to the college football playoff. You're down there in Cincinnati. Cincinnati does it as well. So, and I think Luke Fickell, who's the coach of Cincinnati, he was coach Ohio State the last time.
Michigan beat them.
So all of that stuff kind of coming together. It was kind of
well,
wild.
First of all, I'd say it was a hell of a year for me. I mean, I had a hell of a time following football, whether it be the Bengals or Michigan football. They were a lot of fun to watch this year. And just not only the record and what they accomplished this year, but the way they did it, it just felt like old school Michigan football, just run it down your throat. You can't stop us, and playing great defense. And, as a former player, as a Michigan guy, that just touched my heart a little bit. That's the way you're supposed to do it.
Yeah, I know you got to get going. You were on Michigan, so you started out after, a stint with the Dolphins, and you came back and you were with Jim Harbaugh and the coaching staff there. 2 years ago, the pandemic where Michigan was 2-4. If you looked at the coaching staff, only Jim Harbaugh was a former player. Now you look over there and they're all over the place. Right up and down the line. I don't know, like
Mike Hart, Ron Bellamy. You got Bernard coming back. I mean, you got every position. No, and I think there's something to it. And frankly, I had a blast working for Coach Harbaugh. I learned a lot from him. One of the best advice that he gave me, or one of the best pieces of advice that he gave me, was that, you're a former player, you're a guy who's been there, you're a guy who's done it. You'll always draw on your experiences as a player. And I think that is valuable. Not to say that you can't coach if you haven't played, but it is kind of an intangible, or it is kind of something that I've always felt like I've drawn on early in my coaching career here is, as I talk through technique, or as I talk through different circumstances or situations, it kind of just makes you more relatable to the players. But more importantly, you can kind of just put yourself in their shoes and talk through the technique, talk through the day-to-day tasks of being a high-level player.
Your shoes. I got two real quick questions for you. Yeah. You mentioned shoes and Shoelace. You mentioned him for a second there. He was your, along with yourself, a captain of that 2012 team. He's coming back at the player personnel role. I remember him talking at the coaches' luncheon in the Big Ten, and I was just like, everybody loved Denard as the player, but he spoke so much from the heart there. I'm like, whatever this guy does, doesn't matter.
Yeah,
he's going to be a success. I'm guessing you think that he's going to be good coming back for Michigan. What would you say about Denard?
No question. I'm so excited for him and for Michigan. Just to have a guy like Denard in the building. He's just always been such a good friend to me. He's just got the intangibles. There's something about him. He's gritty. He's scrappy. Doesn't love the attention, but he's a fun guy to follow. He's got a lot of positive energy. He'll be a good addition to the staff. So I'm happy as hell for him. Happy as hell for Michigan.
Yeah, the final question is, you mentioned the not real superstars on defense, but on offense. I mean, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, these guys, they're doing things that it's just absolutely incredible. I mean, what can you say about either of those guys? Tell me something about Chase and Burrow. They're miraculous to watch.
They're pretty damn good. Just the way they work throughout the week, but day in and day out, the attention to detail in every rep that they take in practice, whether it's individual or in team periods. I think that, especially Joe, I mean, he is just laser focused all the time. And there's something about him. He clearly has a chip on his shoulder. He's a scrappy guy as well. He's fun to coach, fun to root for, fun to pull for. And I think he's got a pretty bright future. And then Jamar, you can't say enough. He's just such an athletic kid. Just a fun-loving guy. He's just a good energy. And he, week in and week out makes catches that you say, how the hell did he come down with that? And I think that what's fun is to watch with Jamar is not only the plays that he makes on the ball, but just watching him after the catch. I mean, he's like a running back with the ball in his hands, and receivers that are like that are the dangerous ones. So he's a fun guy to watch as well, fun guy to root for.
Yeah, so are you, Jordan. All the best. It was great. I know you get there, and now you want to take it all the way. And I know Chris Evans, too, over there on the offensive side of the ball. Yeah. I was pulling for him. He almost – they had to play for him coming out of the backfield. It was the second series.
Yes.
I picked him like as a 1 out of 100 to score the first touchdown. And that's all I said, to give me one shot, of him. You know what? It was in the playbook.
Pretty good odds, too.
It was. And it almost connected. And I thought, that's something that would have been awesome. But it was an awesome ride. It was fun. All the best to you. I know you work hard, and I know you got to head to a meeting right now. So it's not all, fun and games, just sitting back in the off season. So
That's right. We're back at it. It's a quick turnaround to the combine. It's unbelievable. I guess it's a good issue, though. You go to the Super Bowl, the next thing you know, it's the 2022 season is here. So what the hell?
Well, there you go. Bolster that defense, and all the best to you. It was great catching up with you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Dennis.
All right. Take care, Jordan.
Yep. See ya.
There he is. Jordan Kovacs joining us here. Cincinnati Bengals assistant linebackers coach, being able to go through with Cincy. He had been there for a few years, and here they are going to the Super Bowl this year. What a great ride there for the Bengals. That's right, man. Chris Evans. I don't know how many times I called him Chris Perry. Chris Perry also. Chris Perry, drafted by the Bengals. Chris, running back, Michigan. But I wrote it once about Perry, and somebody's like, "Oh, you bet Chris Perry? I don't think that's going to come through. That's some real long shot." And there you go. There he is, Jordan Kovacs, who the last time I used to, when I was younger, watch preseason football, where it was the Lions, and because of fantasy football, I just miss football, so I'm out there watching watching exhibition football. And people would say, exhibition, it's nothing. It sucks. You can't get anything out of it. I'm like, oh no, you can get things out of it. But slowly I started listening, and I think, you know what, you're right. The preseason really does. It stinks. It's horrible. And then the last preseason game I can really remember watching, like focusing in on, was 2017, and it was the Miami Dolphins. And I was watching into the second half of this because Jordan Kovacs was, trying to make the Dolphins team, and there he was, running around in the second half, even in an exhibition game where the Dolphins. That was the last one that I really watched. So, if there's somebody like from Michigan that'll be playing in the preseason, that could be it. And, they trimmed it down, and I don't think anybody would complain if they didn't have any preseason games. But that's the last one that I can really remember where I'm like, I got to watch it. Like, this is a really big deal. After that, it's kind of like, you know what? Everybody was right about preseason games. Don't get hurt. You don't really need it. Let's go. Let's get on with the regular season. I did know that the fourth preseason game was garbage. I mean, for entertainment, it might help the coaches out, or who's gonna, be your fifth wide receiver, who's gonna make special teams or something. Okay. But to go to it or to watch it, like nobody that is barely anybody that's going to be out there week one is going to be in a fourth preseason game. But, all right, that's too much time talking about the preseason. Let's get to some Michigan basketball, and for that, let's see, where are we at? We go here, and then we can start this out and talk a little bit about that basketball game yesterday. And that's where Michigan loses to Illinois 93-85. You knew that part here. Here's some of the things when you go to that game, you watch it. The tournament chances, Michigan has 3 games left. And with those 3 games, let's just run through them a little bit here. Tomorrow, here it is. It's March, and Michigan is hosting Michigan State. Enough said to get everything going. And then they got 3 games this week. I mean, they're jamming them in here. You've got the Spartans tomorrow. You've got Iowa on Thursday, and then Ohio State on Sunday. So 3 games this week. And you say, is Michigan in the tournament right now? They are right on the bubble. Like, if they lost these remaining 3 games, they're going to be out. This is my own bracketology, Fithian's bracketology. Michigan loses the next 3 games, they are out. Now, if they go out there and win one of them, let's say they beat Michigan State tomorrow and then drop their final 2, I think that there's, that's when you start looking at all of these numbers, and that's where you're starting to get the quads, and that's where you're looking at the net rankings, and that's where you're looking at RPI and strength of schedule. And you might be looking at all those things anyways. That's where you start talking about, hey, the Big Ten tournament, what they need to do. And Juwan Howard would be back for that. The selection committee, that's not going to be lost on them. Putting a team in that has been, it's controversial, but also a big draw. And Michigan is a big draw. So they do have that going from this. That's if they get to the situation where they just win one, where it's going to be iffy. To me, that is a real iffy proposition. They go 2-1. Let's just say they win their home games here, Michigan State tomorrow, and then Thursday against Iowa, sweep the Hawkeyes for the season, and then drop that game to Ohio. I feel like they're in a pretty good spot. Not even matter. It doesn't matter. Excuse me. What would happen if they went out there to Indianapolis and didn't come up with anything? And if they go 3-0, I think we can all, then you start to talk about seeding or getting hot. The thing about this team winning 3 games in a row, if you just look at their pattern this month, they've been win 1, lose 1 all the way through here in February. And you really have to go back to a 3-game stretch. Nebraska was in there where they won a couple games in a row. It's been win 1, lose 1, win 1, lose 1. And if that ends up playing out the rest of the way, that means that they will win tomorrow against Michigan State, but they would lose against Iowa, and then they would win against Ohio State. I would take that right now. You don't get to do that, but if it held up where they were in their win 1, lose 1 pattern. But there was some discussion here today. I was looking at the Maize and Blue review, and just give me 1 second. There you go. I was looking at the Maize and Blue review where it was saying, hey, the question was posed, maybe this team, it would just be better if they made the NIT and it got a little run. It would get their young players. They would give their young players a chance to get some experience, rather than going to the NCAA tournament where they're, likely to, they could lose their, first game. Certainly, I don't think anybody predicted they would win more than 2. So, going on an NIT run, you've heard this post, and that I can't, if you're like some fledgling program and you always want to make the NCAA tournament. I mean, that's it. It's like the first thing with any basketball program. It's like, well, how'd you do in the tournament? Oh, we didn't make it. Oh, we made the nobody's interested tournament. Nobody wants to play in the NIT. Sometimes you take it, and then when you're in there, you do what you can do. You know, you got to do what you got to do. I mean, you're still playing it. It's not like you say, no, we're not going to play at all, but you want to play in the NCAA tournament, even though it says NCCA here. We'll have to get on the producer for that. But no, you want to play in the big tournament. You never want to play in the NIT. With this team yesterday, it was alarming because of the score. Everybody talking about, well, Michigan, giving up 90 plus points. Where's their defense? And yeah, where was their defense, especially in the first half? Where was that? You give them credit for coming back and getting it within 2 points with 2 to go, but where is the defense? Where is the charges, block shots? I mean, those are things Phil Martelli talked about. Michigan's lack of having a rim protector. Even though you think Moussa Diabate would and Dickinson at 7'1", you've got some size there. Yeah, where are those guys? But really, it's been a theme this year for Michigan. If you have watched them enough, when you're talking about guarding this team, you need to get out there and you need to guard your opponent. And obviously that was a problem in the first half with Plummer. I mean, this is the Plummer, the transfer from Utah. He had hit 8 out of 10 threes on Thursday in Illinois' loss to Ohio State. So he comes in as hot as a firecracker, and then he's just pouring them in on Michigan. What do you have, 20 plus points, in the first half against you? You got to guard him. You got to find him. You got to find a way. Switch, do everything else. They did a better job in the second half, but then, they got an inside-out game, and there was Coburn going to work. So I saw a little bit of the discussion after the game, like, hey, if Michigan plays like they did yesterday the rest of the way, they'll be okay. And no, I don't know how hard they played in the first half. You can't have lapses defensively, and you can't get buried. Like, it felt like that game was won in the first half. Even though Michigan came all the way back and got within 2 points with 2 minutes to go, it felt like that game was won in the first half by Illinois. So they've got to, and since really the last 4 minutes against Penn State a couple of weeks ago, and then the next game was against Purdue, Michigan had found an identity, and they'd really come out and played with a desperation. Starting in that Purdue game, where it was their best game of the year, where they blew out Purdue, top ranked Purdue, top 5, or they ranked 3rd in the country, top 3 team at that point. But maybe they found something there of realizing that they have to play desperate at all times. I'm not sure they did that yesterday, but that's what has to happen here. I do wonder, watching them and watching their on again, off again, win one, lose one kind of trend that they've been on, if they would be able to get into the Big Ten tournament and win 2. Could they win a Thursday and Friday and could they get to the weekend in the Big Ten tournament? Now, that would be an accomplishment. If they were to be able to get to the Big Ten tournament and win 2 games, they play on the Thursday, they get that first bye. They're not going to play on the Wednesday. They're not going to be in the bottom 4. Get in that on a Thursday, win that game, and then, get yourself a win on Friday. Get to the weekend. They can do that. I would feel pretty good about them. And then, that's getting yourself into the tournament. And could they win 1 and then play hard? I'm not ready. I guess this is the part where I'm at. I think I think that they can win 2 out of these next 3 and get themselves in the NCAA tournament. I think when they go to Indianapolis, I feel like they could win 2 games, and that would be a nice accomplishment for this team. I feel like if they get to the NCAA tournament, that they could win a game. And that feels like it's the ceiling for me. Make the tournament, win a game. Get to the Big Ten tournament, win 2 games. That's what I've seen. Anything above that, do they have that in them? Look, you go through the starting 5, and there's some things to like here. Look at Caleb Houston. He scored 20 points yesterday, hit that big three late, had 11 points in the first half. Remember, he had a career high the other night in Michigan's last game. So you're feeling like, he's coming around. He's always been the key to this team because they need 3-point shooting. They need outside shooting, and that's his specialty. And it's not like anybody else has really stepped up and knocking him down. So, Houston's coming around. Devontae Jones, may have played his best game, certainly scoring-wise for Michigan yesterday, and clutch shots. I mean, he's making some big-time layups and making some big-time free throws. And, I think Brooks and Dickinson, that wasn't his best game yesterday, but, he's got that in him. And Diabate, his game has been on an upwards trajectory, really the entire year. That's a nice starting five if we're trying to make the case that they can do more than what I'm talking about. That starting five, could they really put it together for more than one game in the NCAA tournament? Possibly. I'm just not ready to predict that. And, it'd be nice to be able to get more from the bench, whether it be, we go down the list from Bufkin, who he might be the candidate that most people would pick right now to, give him something offensively, maybe even defensively, coming off that bench. So there it is. That's how I see it coming down with the rest of the season and the tourney. Are we? I wanted to give a couple shout outs here, and one, this goes to the softball program. Back on Friday, Carol Hutchins, became the all-time winningest coach in NCAA softball history. The wins, 1,675. Now, I thought that Hutch was already the winningest coach, and so I had to look back and check, and, she was. But then there was a coach that overtook her, and now she's back, and she's overtook that coach. So she is the winning, and then that coach has retired. So, and it's going to take a little while. It's going to take a minute to overtake Hutch again. 1,675 wins for Carol Hutchins and the great Michigan softball program. They're awesome. All right, speaking of awesome, we got an update on a first basket in the NBA, and I do have the video. Let's go to it. This is in last night's. The Pistons had been losing. They had a long-time losing streak against the Charlotte Hornets. They go down to the Spectrum. They get a win, and Isaiah Livers was active, and you will see him. I believe he is number 12 here. He's going to knock down a three. This is his first bucket.
Cade dishes to Killian. Livers is open, and he knocks it down from downtown.
Glad to see that happen for the young man.
This is the cleanest video there. Let's see if we can run it again. It kind of stopped in motion there. Let's see if we can get it running all the way through. He is wearing 12. Let his hair grow a little bit. Doesn't look as big as he did at Michigan.
There's an NBA triple to put his team up by 4. Timeout, Charlotte. Alive though, tapped it outside.
String music. Let's see it again here. It's Blaha on the call. Olynyk, who hit the game winner. And the assist comes from Cunningham, I think. That's nice.
And he knocks it down from
boom.
Downtown.
Glad to see that happen for the young man. I mean, he's had a tough.
Count that, baby. Got enough of George Blaha. Congratulations to Isaiah Livers on his first basket in the NBA. All right, tomorrow we will talk Michigan State basketball in the game that will be played at 8:30. Thanks to Jordan Kovacs for joining us. And we'll see you again. We're here every day at 1 o'clock and then after Michigan football and basketball games. So tomorrow, a little doubleheader. Be here at 1, then we'll be on after the Michigan MSU hoops game at the Chrysler Center. Till tomorrow at 1.